Koe no Katachi questions our ability to communicate. It is a story of ostracization, isolation, suicide, acceptance and self-forgiveness. It raises questions about the truth of relationships. How can we overcome grief, our inner demons? Will we ever be able to understand each other? And finally, can we truly touch the soul of another human being? A silent voice is searching for the shape of voice. The movie is constantly forming the image of its casts using different perspectives. The explicit character depiction is replaced with hints. The film stands on its own and does not require an external explanation from the original source material. With carefully placed flashbacks, the eye movements of the characters, well-used mixture of explained and non-explained sign language, and other hints in the background, Koe no Katachi tells an astounding story without using even a single word. And that is just one aspect of the shape of voice. The parallel narratives immediately unfold in front of our eyes during the first 5 minutes. A little girl sitting in the background with wet hair and leaves on her head envisages the future and references the bullying. Downcast eyes looking back for a moment to show us a romantic interest. These are all shaping the story that is untold in the dialogues. The shape of voice is a study of human connections. It handles the breakdown of friendships, the path to redemption through understanding one another. Ishida is unable to listen. After his experiences of being the scapegoat among his peers in grade school, leading to social anxiety, he is no longer able to look the world in the eye, hence the symbolic axis. Just as he was shut out of his past life, his deeds still haunt him, rendering him scarred emotionally and mentally, leading to a lasting effect on his personality. We never see her older sister's face, even though we know she's there. He's literally blocking the world out and won't listen to it until the end of the movie. But he's slowly trying to do so. He is trying to regain communication with society once again, building up new friendships. Ever so slowly, the axes are starting to fall down. We can see this when he asks Kawai about her hairstyle. He wants to understand why Nishimiya did the same. Even when he was a kid, he did show at least some interest in her. We see an attempt of helping her early on.
お前さ、もっとうまくやらねえとうざがられちゃうんじゃねえの?
Whether the bullying and teasing was a form of showing this interest or it was induced by his boredom isn't as clear though. This controversial understanding is shown when he realizes how Nishimiya tried to protect him by cleaning his desk. She was trying, but he wouldn't listen. Koe no Katachi is about these effects of not paying attention to others. A story about not listening. We see a teacher who turns a blind eye to bullying, who ignores ostracization, almost encouraging such a behavior. We see how Ishida realizes that he should have listened instead of building up his own image of Nishimiya. We see how communication and miscommunication can lead to something terrifying. The real shape of the voice is Ishida calling out Nishimiya's first name for the first time. A mobile phone that allows the communication. The same goes for Nishimiya's right arm being in a sling. Her means of communicating is cut off and she's rendered speechless in another way. When death is near, the music is disconnected. At the funeral, we hear crackles. During the fireworks, it is the silence. Shoko cannot hear her own name being called. The movie's composer, Kensuke Ushio, revealed that as Shoei is learning a new way of communication throughout the movie, this communication practice is depicted with the usage of musical exercises. That is why the soundtrack is full of inventions. Just listen to how the noises differ on the two sides before the bridge scene, symbolically visualizing Nishimiya, whose right ear completely lost hearing. Nishimiya was willing to let her voice be heard. After the scene with the doctor, her loss of hearing of her right ear is devastating. Then Ueno reappears after all those years, contrasting Nishimiya's inner image. A straightforward, brave girl who also set her eyes on Ishida. No wonder Shoko feels like she has to use her own voice when confessing. Natsume Soseki, the highly acclaimed novelist in Japan, once taught his students that the correct Japanese translation for the English sentence "I love you" is "the moon is so beautiful." While Ishida is wrapped up in his own mind dealing with his inner demons, he wouldn't understand what Nishimiya wanted to say, yet the answer is a hint to the viewer. While Ishida shuts others out, Shoko has always shut herself in. She avoided confrontation and slowly sank into feeling guilty. Understanding Nishimiya's guilt is the core of what led to her attempted suicide. Shoko is convinced that she is the reason for the miseries of those surrounding her. The reason of her father abandoning their family. The reason of her sister Yuzuru and her only friend Sahara being bullied. In the past, we see her giving up on retrieving her notebook from the pond. In that situation, where nobody understood sign language, this meant that she gave up on communication and she essentially abandoned relationships with anyone. These events led to her being shattered, considering suicide, which is why Yuzuru has been trying to scare these thoughts away with photos of dead animals. When Nishimiya gets back her notebook, she's moved because she gets back the hope of relationships along with it. Then she's told that Ishida lost his friends because of her, that everything fell apart because of her. She perceives that she's the reason behind Ishida's decaying friendships. While Ueno wanted to confront her and show how Nishimiya is unwilling to face the fact that she blames herself for everything, we finally understand. She doesn't direct her anger towards others, but hates herself instead. She witnesses Ishida pushing her newly found friends away once again. She realizes that he cares for her and she thinks that she will cause his misfortune again. The accumulated guilt feels genuine. Shoya means the bridge between other people and her. He's a newly found hope for communication, something that was given up on long ago. When she understands how Ishida's redemption is realized through her happiness, she also realizes how that sole purpose of making sacrifices can lead to Ishida's sorrow. That is why she jumps. In her dream, she understands him perfectly. What makes the rest of the cast work is how realistic they are. Even without the manga's detailed side stories, we understand a lot about them. As they say, in the midst of the guilty, the silent man is an accomplice. Neither Hirase and Shimada nor Kawai are innocent. The same goes for Ueno. She liked Shoya and therefore joined in with the bullying at first. But we sense that there is more to this. Ueno thought that she was losing to Nishimiya because she was using her disability to get closer to Ishida. Combine this with her hinted thoughts of Ishida trying to express his love through teasing, and the bullying is understood immediately. Years later, she still cares for Ishida. What she sees in Nishimiya is her being the sole cause of everything that happened. The movie is hinting how she monopolized the hospital room of Shoya, how she took care of him and tried to get him back. And yes, this is a kiss if anyone was wondering. She atones for her sins when she realizes how she's losing Ishida with every desperate step she makes. We don't have to sympathize with her, but we understand her, again without a single word. The way Kawai is depicted is the same. These characters are real people. We understand them without an elaborate explanation, and what is frightening is how much we can relate to them. She's an innocent bystander in her own eyes. The way she sees herself as a victim is what led to her fall. She believes what she says, and won't face the reality that surrounds and hurts her. Her inner conflicts stem from her disability to understand this. Another example of not listening. What happens when people start opening up? When they finally stop focusing on their own perspectives and listen? We see a woman, a lone wife, whose ex-husband put all the blame of their daughter's disability on her, consequently divorcing her just for having a deaf child. A mother who wanted her daughter to be strong on her own. A mother who realizes her daughter cannot cope with everything alone and finally fights in her defense. We see how Nishimiya understands how selfish it is to escape by committing suicide, and how she should also focus on listening without a voice. Her apology is different than the ones in the beginning. We witness how Ishida supports her and himself as well, and how he realizes the joy of living with others surrounding him. In the beginning of the movie, we see a point of delight, a person alone, and in the end, we understand how this turns into a circle enveloping two people. There are only 2 instances when the song representing light is played, which gives the last note to a movie about achieving this light. And we understand how these characters find redemption in life. After all, life is always worth living. Have they become partners? That's something you'll have to decide for yourself. Oh, this one was a tough nut to crack. Thank you for watching. I'd love to hear your opinion in the comment section below. And if you want to see more videos like this, please consider clicking on the subscribe button. I'm Bessekai, and see you until next time when we'll step into yet another world.